When my mom used to drag me to church on Sunday, there used to be a saying, God got involved. And what they would use that saying of God got involved basically to represent a situation where everything was bad, something needed to give. And at the last moment, this hand of God reaching from the sky where God gets involved. We have a situation like this, a bit of schadenfreude on my part, but is what it is, I'm a person, never said I was perfect. But in this very specific case, God gets involved. Jair Bolsonaro, president of Brazil, infected with COVID-19. Could not happen to a better person. Guarantee you. Jair Bolsonaro made the point once before, not taking this all that seriously, and even saying, look, Brazilians are immune to this. Clearly, they are not. Right now, Brazil is the number 2 hotspot in the world behind the United States. Right here. Brazil. United States, 3 million infections. Brazil, 1.6 million infections. 42,000 new cases in Brazil today. 43,000 in the United States. 42,000. 66,741 deaths, with 1,185 new deaths today alone. That is what a hotspot looks like. That is a country that is dealing with incompetent leadership, and that incompetent leadership has basically allowed all of this to take place. He's a right-winger, and his emphasis is so much on the economy that the fact that human beings are the center of our country, and honestly, from an ideological disposition, if you're talking about the majority of the population, the center of their world, the things that you interact with, the things that you do throughout the course of your day, I would almost guarantee you in some way there's some human hand that's working in accordance with you in whatever you're doing. And yet, this seems to be the thing that he cares about the least, at least in the context of this virus. Brazil is reeling from COVID-19. You thought the United States was bad. Brazil is reeling from COVID-19. And this is not a country that has the economic, let's say, disposition of the United States. He's made a choice to prioritize the economy over life and limb, and had downplayed this virus every bit as much, if not more, than Donald Trump. He finally gets infected. Now, Brazil has 209 million people. Now, the United States is about 320 million, so Brazil has about 65% of our population. Right now, they have 86,000 deaths. If the United States was Brazil, meaning just based on scale of size, it would have 86,000 deaths. So Brazil hasn't necessarily caught up to the United States, I guess, in you could say rate, but their rate clearly is accelerating. And 66,000 is utterly and entirely abysmal. But what we know right now is Bolsonaro is infected. This is him responding, basically, trying to tell people that, hey, ain't that big of a deal. I'm all right. Everything's good. The world is great. Pay no attention to the fire around me.
Você vê minha cara, eu tô bem, tranquilo, graças a Deus. É tudo em paz. Obrigado a todos aqueles que oraram por mim, torceram por mim. Tô bem, graças a Deus. Os que criticaram, não tem problema, podem continuar criticando à vontade.
Okay, I don't speak Portuguese, so I'm not really getting much out of that. But from my understanding, he says, just look at my face, I'm fine. And he takes his mask off and shows his face. This man is responsible for thousands, tens of thousands of deaths because he chose explicitly to make a choice. I'm going to deal with the economy and I'm going to be okay with the weak dying off as long as I keep the economic output going. In fact, they don't even have a health minister in Brazil because he fired the health ministers. The first health minister he fired was because that guy was trying to push through policies that would have basically cut down on those numbers. Bolsonaro didn't like the point that he was pushing through these kind of social distancing policies and fired the guy. And understand too who's paying for this. The indigenous communities. Whatever this number is right now, 66,000, this number doesn't entirely take into account the number of deaths in the indigenous communities because those deaths are being underreported. So, look, an utter dumpster fire of an administration, and that dumpster fire of administration, right-wing governments, just like Modi, just like Trump, just like Boris Johnson, gets into trouble because they prioritize things beyond human life. Whereas the population itself, if asked, would prioritize human life. I don't know the politics of Brazil enough to know whether or not will lose this next election. I will say this. People get a little dicey when they're dying off for a disease or a virus that they understand was infinitely preventable, or at the very least, possible to curtail the worst of effects. And right now, Brazil is trying to catch up to the United States in regards to being the preeminent epicenter of this disease. He is clownish and goofballish enough to potentially hit our numbers and go past. My heart goes out to the people of Brazil. We are living through our own right-winger as president, so I understand where you're coming from. All I can say is persist. Persist. Sounds like it's thundering outside. So I will end this here. Like,